I'm Edric,
I'm Joy.
and we're here to help you.
Get it right from the start.
So we have some amazing dads and athletes or former athletes who are with us here, and also authors. And we're gonna have a very rich set of conversations. Thanks for being here, Alex, Coach Alex, and Coach Kevin. They are here for the NBTC. Is one of the main reasons that brought them together. Coach Alex is part of the organizers behind this. It's like a global tournament, as you were saying earlier, and Coach Kevin is here because his son is in the tournament. But our specific conversation is around this book. So those that are watching us right now in the viewing version will be able to see this. If you're listening to the podcast, please take a look and see for yourself. It's called Guiding Your Child's Athletic Journey, written by Coach Alex Compton and Coach Kevin Dalafu. And the Wisest Learner is the mother brand, if you will, that got you started. So let's talk a little bit about the book. How did you guys get to talking with Wallace, Dr. Wallace Pandilla, who we've also guested here, talking about Wisest Learner? How did the whole conversation come about?
Well, Wallace has been he's one of my best friends in the world. He's Nino Owner, that's godfather. Him and Cheryl are godparents to all my kids.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So we've been good friends since, I want to say, 2006, maybe. In fact, our wives get really upset with us because when we all get together, they're ready to go to bed, and Wallace and I are still talking. They're like, 12 o'clock now, let's go. And so we've been really close, and Kevin's been a part of that crew since 2008. So we've all been friends. And then, just as dads, Wisest Learners was an awesome book. And I'm a pseudo nerd. I'm
Pseudo nerd.
a pseudo nerd.
Explain.
It's like kind of a wannabe, kind of on the fringes. And so my parents are kind of nerds, and my wife's kind of a nerd, and I like hanging out with them.
She's a beautiful nerd.
Yes. By the way, Coach Alex is being humble. He's a Cornell guy, just to say. All right. So bring back the pseudo nerd.
So I really loved the book, and I loved how palatable it was. That it wasn't like all academic jargon that flies over everybody's heads. It was really made in a way, even though it's written by a cognitive neuroscientist and an ed psych PhD, you see that and you're like, but I read it and I'm like, man, this could be awesome. If people will get this and use it, people like me and my wife, it'll really help. And then Wallace wrote another book. They did the parents, they did the teachers, they did the kids. They wrote these great books. And he's like, hey, maybe you guys want to write a book for, and I think he was talking to us individually.
Yeah, separately.
And then he said, maybe you guys want to write a book for parents of athletes, which makes sense with our background.
And so, Kevin, what stood out to you as you read the book that made you say, yeah, I'm in, let's do this?
Yeah. So I was reading the book, and I was kind of early on with Wallace and just kind of talking through the book and how influential it could be for parents. So I actually have the book in my school. My teachers read it. I've given it to my parents.
This is the Wisest Learner.
The Wisest
not
Learners.
your edition.
Yeah.
Yet.
So
Okay.
not even that. And one day I'm talking about it, and I'm like, Wallace, we got to do one for parent of athletes, because there's a whole group of parents who want to invest in their children, and sometimes they just don't know how. And so I was having this conversation. I know he was talking about things with Wallace, and eventually we just kind of came together, and he's like, hey, you guys want to do this? And so that was super exciting for me. I think just as a parent of athletes, and this is, I think, the journey that we're on together, is sometimes you don't know what you don't know. And so something like this just puts kind of shines a light. And sometimes it's like, oh, great, I'm doing this well. Sometimes it's like, oh, I got to backtrack here. We got to make some, I don't call them mistakes. I call them learnings, right? We learn from those. And so that's kind of how we got into it. Just, this is stuff that I need to know. Kind of wrote the book for ourselves.
Yeah.
So tell me your main highlight. You're saying you wrote it for yourselves. What are you trying to tell yourself from your vantage point? And then let's hear Alex. Let's hear you first, Kevin.
As I've we're part of this with Alex, and as I see my own parenting journey, obviously looking at how my parents guided me through my athletic journey, I think what I walk away with is, as a parent, I'm so passionate about the sport. I'm so passionate about my children's success, and I want the best for them. But I don't want that passion to turn into their burden.
It's good.
And so that's been something that isn't specifically laid out in the book. But as I've read through it, as we wrote it, I was like, man, that's just something as a dad. Like sometimes I want it so much for them, and sometimes it doesn't come out right. Where then it's his burden. I have two boys, so it's becomes their burden. That's the last thing I want for them.
Right.
I want to guide their passion. I want to support them. I want to infuse them. I want to give them everything they need to be successful, but I don't want that to be burdensome.
Right.
And so that's what, as I walked out of this whole thing, it's like, man, Kevin, as you parent your boys, make sure you're not becoming a burden on them.
That's fantastic. And I know you wrote how to do that in this book. So I want to get some highlights of that from you. But let's hear Alex first. So what would you say is your version of, I'm actually writing this to myself?
Well, very similarly. I mean, I think part of it for me was my dad was a college athlete, and I got to be a college athlete. In a weird way, I don't care if my kids are college athletes. I want them, through their sports experience, to get things that'll help them for the rest of their lives. So I'm most concerned with the character. I don't even care what sport they like. I want them to learn how to do stuff right, to be excellent, to learn things like sacrifice and hard work, even something like punctuality, or, people don't know this. Like, so I'm a basketball guy. So the inventor of the game is a guy named Dr. James Naismith. Most people don't know he's actually a theologian.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
We're most people.
Interesting.
Yeah. So everybody knows the story. The common story out there is that he invented the game of basketball to have something to do during the winter because he was a PE guy. Well, that's true, but it's not complete. He was trying to come up with a game to teach young men Christian values. He was trying to make better people through the sport. And ultimately, as a basketball guy, whatever sport my kids are in, if they're in music, whatever they're doing, that's what I want them to get out of it. And I want it to be a place of great joy. So I have great memories with my parents. Great memories. Not of pressure, not of their passion being my burden, but of support and love. And not one where they crossed the line and coached me. They let my coaches coach. My dad's old school saying was very simple, very few words. Listen to your coach, son. So I want to keep that same stance, even as a former professional coach, to keep that same stance. I can help you off the court. If the coach says something, do it. What we're concerned here with is character, leadership, things that'll last you a lifetime. And if I can be there along for the ride with them, give some advice, parent through it, not coach through it, then we've made some memories.
Yeah. Before I go back to Kevin about the burden part, which is really fascinating, you are a coach. You mentioned that right now. How do you stop yourself from talking to the coach when you feel like they made so many bad calls and this is your kid on the line? You're like, you know what? I want to say, because you said it very well. Your dad's advice is listen to your coach, son. But because you were a coach, a high level coach, a successful one, and you see a coach doing it and you're thinking, what's he doing? How do you stop yourself from doing that? Or how do you weave it in so that they're able to do better?
So I learned how to give myself sutures on my tongue because I've been so much. But sometimes you need to, right? And I love the phrase, when in doubt, zoom out. What's the macro? What's the best for your kid? So me screaming, they called play 2. No, run 3. What? Like, who am I helping? Like, what in the world am I doing? Like, how does that in any way do anything but hurt my kid? I'm not the coach. I'm dad. And so more than anything, I want them to learn the value of respecting their authority. And even I'll train my kids this summer. We'll really train most days. And I'll say, okay, I'm teaching you this way. And they know by now, if I say on the pick and roll this way, and your coach tells you roll this way, open up, what do? What my coach says. Absolutely. Learn it his way, do it exactly the way he wants it. That's the whole point. Respect the authority, get everything you can out of them. I'm not your coach when I'm not your coach.
I think it's interesting, right? Because you guys are after the holistic development of your children. And how do you balance that when the reality is you want them to be successful, like you said, Kevin? And success could mean going into professional sports. But then how do you balance making sure that they are well-rounded academically, spiritually, character-wise, even mentally, and still they have that aspect of them that puts the time and the effort and the energy into their sport? How do you do that?
Well, so first I would start, and this is really the first chapter of our book, is establishing values. And every family has values. Some are articulated, some you don't even know that you have. And then sometimes you have values that you say, but then you have the values that are the actual do. And so I think that's the important part of identifying what is valuable to your family. I also think that the definition of success isn't always accurate. So for me, I can say right now, I have a 15-year-old. Success is if you play in the NBA. That's the only version of success that he can have. Well, that might be his understanding. That's his goal, right? That's every basketball player's goal. Is Alex's goal, is my goal. Well, a lot of people fail that goal. And so if that's your definition of success, it's a mistake. When I was at college, there was a professor, and he was sharing about how his daughter came home, and she, this was back in early 2000s, had a nose piercing. And his wife was upset. And how could this be? And she was, I think, 16 or 17 years old. And so he shared with us what he said to his wife. And he said, honey, our daughter loves the Lord. She's going to join us in heaven. And if she becomes a doctor, great. But if she becomes a doctor and doesn't know the Lord, then we failed as parents. And so I say, kind of take that understanding of what success is. So for me, my goal is that I get to spend eternity with my sons, right? And so that right there is my primary objective, is that I get to do that. Now, taking that to success is what is the definition of success? It's not to be a great athlete, right? It's to be a fully functioning adult who honors and glorifies God. And so youth sports can help that journey. Who's going to learn how to be persistent, hardworking, dedicated. Now, those might be things where he now might have a definition of success of playing professionally or playing college basketball. But I think it's defining success. And that's where we're not just saying, hey, get this book and you'll be a college athlete. That's not what we're saying. We're saying get this book so you can understand there's so much more to youth sports than what the world would call success.
And becoming a good athlete would then be a byproduct of the process and the journey of helping them grow in character.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And I said if because am I correct in understanding that if the end goal is to be a fully functioning adult that glorifies and lives for God, right?
That you're within heaven someday. Yeah.
And as of course when we're all done, right, in heaven together, does that then mean that if, let's say, parents will say, well, my kid's not athletic, then that's okay?
Is there such a thing?
Yes.
Or is that?
Or are you saying we must still try to find a way to get kids in some form of athletic activity? I'd love to hear your thoughts, especially as coaches. Go ahead.
We were talking about the NBTC. There's going to be about 15,000 plus athletes
Wow.
that participate in the NBTC.
Just a little.
There's a couple. There's a kid or two.
Yeah.
There's a kid or two. Out of them, maybe 10, 12. Let's swing big. Maybe 30 will play in the PBA. The league is not for the 30, it's for the 15,000. So, and for the 30. But the whole point of youth athletics is it's for all of us. So when I first coached 5th grade basketball, which was an adventure, it was an absolute adventure.
This is in the U.S. or Philippines?
In the U.S. In the U.S. So small Christian school my kids go to, 26 people in the class. So it could be like 15 boys, 11 girls. It could be like 18 girls, 8 boys. Whoever comes out, they're on the team. That's tryouts. You show up, you're on. That's what we got. Awesome. So they come out and I'm like, okay, this is going to be interesting. But I told the coaches, like, look, guys, our goal is to help the kids enjoy the game within the boundaries of authoritative parenting of there's boundaries and there's a lot of warmth and joy. There's boundaries, there's a lot of warmth and joy. Don't talk when the coach is talking or you're running. Come back, let's have fun. Let's learn, right? There's boundaries and there's joy. But we want them to play more and keep playing more because it's healthy, it's good. They're learning teamwork. They're interacting with their peers in a controlled environment. But we want them to be comfortable enough and be equipped. So when they're sitting around in college, because from what I'm seeing, they're not playing college basketball, we want them to be able to say when their friends invite them, hey, you want to go shoot some hoops? They go, yeah.
Mm.
Because think of almost nobody makes the NBA. I heard a stat: 40 people a year make the NBA. 5,000 people a year get struck by lightning. So you have
More people.
125 times more chance of getting struck by lightning.
Then to make it NBA.
If that's your goal, what about everybody else?
That sounds like a nerdy
what are
thing
we
to
doing?
say. Like, I want to know about
Yeah.
5,000 people getting struck by lightning.
Well, last year it was 4,987.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is you want people to have the joy of being able to participate in some form of athletics.
Well, yeah. So,
Right.
like a value for us
Yeah.
is my wife and I. Our kids have to play in team sports because we believe everything that's of real value that you're going to do in life is going to be done with a group of other people in some form of community. And sports is a microcosm of that, particularly team sports. That I need to learn. It's their time to shine.
Right.
Yeah. I was just going to ask something about that.
Go ahead.
Because, like, we're homeschooling parents, and a lot of times homeschoolers are involved in individual sports.
Mhm.
But recently, our kids joined volleyball. So they are with teammates. And it's been interesting to see what character traits they've had to grow in.
Yeah.
Where they adjust to one another, they get frustrated with their teammates, and they have to sit on the bench sometimes because they're not going to be playing, and they lose together, and they're learning all kinds of things. So that one recently, Catalina, who's our fifth, she said, Mom, I just realized that playing volleyball is so much like life. She said,
She's 11 years old.
Yeah, she's like, when you lose, that means that you have to improve on something, and it's okay. And when you win, it's like you made the right decision. So I was like, okay, so this is a good thing.
Yeah.
And so I was just going to ask you guys that. Team sports versus individual sports. I guess your preference is the team.
Well, I'll let him answer and then I'll answer.
Well, so I want to say there's a preference,
Yeah.
because you're going to learn this, a lot of the same skills, like perseverance, hard work. If you're not good, then what do you have to do to get good? You got to practice. You got to do better. So I wouldn't say that there's a preference there, but I'll also say there's other things that you can learn in team sports that you don't get to learn in individual, but it also say the same thing in individual that you don't get to learn in team sports. And so I've had, my boys have played multiple sports. My oldest, he did golf for a while, and now he's and he found success in that. Now he's doing basketball. My youngest one he's doing basketball now, but he's also done tennis. And so I think that there's benefits to both. I wouldn't say that I find one or the
So I want to close the loop on the burden and passion. Yeah. Give us a couple of tips, Kevin, and then I have a personal question for you all. I want to be real with our audience here because as a father, I don't know if I was able to instill the joy in my kids. And I'll be real with you and ask you that question. But let's hear Kevin first so we can close that conversation. A couple of tips, how to make sure that the passion does not become a burden. Those are the words you used earlier.
And I think this is something that I'm working through as a dad, because I'm super passionate for my kids. I tell my son all the time, he said, there's one person in this world that wants you to be better than them, and that's me.
It's amazing.
And so that passion for him, but one is just see if there's joy in what he's doing, and see if the dedication is on his own or if it's driven by me. And so currently, right now, he wakes up before school every morning on his own and works out. I don't set an alarm. I don't wake him up. Actually, there's times where I'll say, hey, bud, it was a long night. You're not working out tomorrow. But Dad, no, you're going to rest. And so he's having his own dedication. He's finding joy in his own successes. And so I think that that's where I know I'm not burdening him. My 11-year-old, on the other hand, is he's a gifted basketball player, but at this point he isn't dedicated. And so I had this conversation with my wife about 2 weeks ago. I said, wow, he's really gifted. And do I need to start pushing him? And then after some dialogue, I was like, you know what? No, I'm going to wait till he comes to me and says, hey, Dad, I want to start becoming more dedicated. And if that doesn't happen, well, then I have to be okay with that and help him find successes in other ways.
Right.
But I think for those, that'll be my answer: the joy and the
Fantastic.
dedication.
Now, on that note, so this is my personal experience, right? But I want to land on this because so many parents we know are in the same boat. And we actually had a feature with another athletic family, right, in the swimming world. So to your point, you see that they've got abilities and they have an initial desire. my sons had an initial desire for basketball. We have this hoop outside, if you guys are seeing. And I'm like, all right, let's go. So every day, wake up, dribbling drills, shooting drills. And then they started getting like really over fatigued. They're like, oh, this is so
Can I say
grueling.
something?
You can speak. Please go.
And
So we were both athletes all throughout, our school experiences as well. So go ahead.
so he had this requirement where you have to shoot 20 straight or you go back to 0. And I think they were starting out, and I think it was a little bit discouraging for them because they felt like, at what point do I really get to shooting 20 straight and then enjoying this versus it's just all about performance. I need to perform to the standard or dad's not going to be happy with the output.
Yes.
So I think that was,
So I think
I'm not trying to throw
no,
you.
no, it's good. This is good.
I'm just-
We want to be honest.
You know,
This is
I
exactly
respect
right. Yeah,
you.
for sure. Very good, baby. Yeah, and I think that's pretty clear. So I'm being real with you and saying I struggled with the character formation and the joy.
Yeah.
And I think I overdid the whole, you got to put in the work as an athlete. I know that there will be days where there's absolutely no joy because you're doing, you're pushing yourself to your limits. And in my mind, I'm thinking they've got to overcome that. But I think if I'm to be honest as a father, because I squashed the joy, they hated basketball. They did. So they went to other sports. So I'm thinking, I would have wanted to have a basketball son we could play and enjoy each other. Although now I have a 22-year-old, he's okay, right? But in those years, the teens, I wanted to ask you that. How do you make sure that as you're trying to build joy, you're straddling the line of character formation very well? Please.
So in response to your question, can I ask you what's almost
This is
a
free
rhetorical-
consult with Coach Alex and
You're
Coach
on
Tim
the
right here. Let's go.
So can I ask you a question that's
Yeah.
almost a rhetorical? 'Cause
Yeah.
I know the answer. Do you love your children?
Yes.
So all of us love our children. And all of us want what's best. And that's the importance of things like Wallace's book, of things like our book, is understanding sometimes, right? And a lot of this book, doing the research of the research was informative for me and has made me a better parent because I've done the similar thing in a different way,
Right.
but in a similar thing around control beliefs and responsibility.
That's good.
I'm expecting my 8-year-old and my 9-year-old to stand up and take responsibility like a man.
Yes.
And that's not where they are yet. But I'm like, Comptons do this, and
Sounds so
stand up
familiar.
and
Makes
admit
sound
it,
good.
right?
True.
And then as I'm reading, I'm like, oh, because they're still on the locus of control spectrum. They're still closer to external. I need to help them shift it to it and not have an expectation that's unfair and not a developmental fit for where they are, right? And so that's a lot of it. It's not because you're obviously a great dad, dude. You love your kids. You want what's best. But that happens.
Yeah.
No, this is the whole point of parenting. This is why we wrote this book.
Yeah.
Because we're all trying. But sometimes it's like, oh man, what did I just do? Right. But it wasn't for lack of effort. It wasn't from bad intent.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, they're just not quite there yet.
Yeah.
And if I took this one step, okay, this will help better. And then you see better results. Right. So I just hope you don't have any condemnation around that.
Yeah.
Because that's all of us. Like we seriously drop the ball. Oop, my bad, drop the ball. Okay. All right. So how do we do this better?
Yeah.
Can I add
Go
to
ahead,
that?
please, Kevin.
And so sometimes we see those moments as black and white. Oh man, you blew it. for
Either
your
this or
kids,
that.
right? And so I'll share my own story.
Sure.
So my oldest, he was became a very good golfer right before COVID and then through COVID, and to the point where he was winning tournaments. And so around the age of 8, 9, 10, I started putting the passion for his success as his burden. And so we started every night. You got to make 20 putts before you go to bed.
I think that's what he said.
Yeah.
With the
Well,
20.
20. What's up with 20, right? Okay.
Well, it's easy. It's only 3 feet. and so I
It's just a hoop.
so I started putting this burden on him.
Yeah.
And to the point where, as I look back, parentally, I blew it. My passion turned into at points of rage where I was so angry because he didn't put what we put into practice. Why are you missing that putt? You do it every single night. And I was a parent. I was a jerk, really, at the end of the day. And so he came up to me and he was like, Dad, I don't want to play golf anymore. And it broke my heart because we are putting so much time and effort into it.
And he was winning and doing so well.
He was doing well. And so I ended up we backed off. But the learning for this is why it's in black and white is he learned perseverance. He learned dedication. He learned that if you have to do all these things you're going to get fruit,
Mm.
success.
Mm.
So eventually that turned into his dedication to basketball.
Mm.
And so he took those life skills,
Mm.
my bad parenting, right? That burden,
Mm.
and now he's put it on himself. And so yesterday, we practiced not 20, but when we end practice, you have to
50.
make 10 free throws in a row.
Mm.
And
Consistent.
just after practice, you make 10. After practice, you make 10. So yesterday, he was struggling. Got to 7, missed. Made 1, missed. Got to 4, miss. Got to 8, miss. And so it's just taking significantly longer than it's supposed to.
Mhm.
And so I said, hey, go get water. So we go get water. He comes back. He said, hey, man, it's been a long day. Let's just make 5 and we'll leave. He's like, no, Dad. I go, okay. He goes, he makes 6, he misses. Right? I don't say another word. I actually just walk out the gym, go grab a drink. He makes his 10, and that's all on him. Right? He put that on himself.
That's good.
I gave him an out, and the out wasn't, hey, you stink today. Let's just cut it. No, it was like, hey, man, it's been a long day. Let's just get 5 and get out of here.
That's really good.
And so where did all that come from?
Yeah.
It came from what I was thinking was bad parenting.
Yeah.
And so there's hope.
That's
for that.
fantastic. So good, Alex.
Can I just share a little
Yes,
tip
go
that
for it.
helped me?
Go
Because
for
it
it.
is really hard.
We'll
So,
wrap this up.
so we're basketball guys, right?
Yes, for sure.
So I'm like super happy-go-lucky in life. Like I love life.
Really?
Everything's good. Where the people
I
at?
don't know
what's
where that's
up,
coming from.
Like
Insane.
it's awesome, right?
Yeah.
And then basketball's the one thing where I'm like, let's go, let's go, right? And nothing else. There's seriously like
Yeah.
nothing else that I'm like that about. So when I'm training my kids, I'm like the switch goes on, like old Stallone movie, like over the top, let's go. And they're kids, right? So they're not grown-ups. They're not Gilas players. I didn't bark at them that way. And what really helped me was when I started training other kids with my kids. And I had actually said no to a friend. He had asked me a few times to train his daughter, who's a great player. And then I finally said, okay, I'll do it, but if my boys can come. And then I noticed my boys had a great time.
Mm.
But it wasn't like,
You back.
like how many times did I say I'm not gritting my teeth,
Yes.
I'm not angry?
Yes.
Because I can't, because the other kid's there.
Yeah.
So it's almost like a sense of accountability and
Yeah.
a check and a boundary
Yeah.
for me to help the other kids with my kids.
Yeah.
Then they had fun. It wasn't as pressure.
Yeah.
And that summer really shifted their passion for
Yeah.
the game
That's
because
really
I was less of a jerk.
That's really good. And you know what I'm learning from you, and I'll close with this. I learned 2 things. First is we're a parent first and a coach second, right? I mean, we need to make sure that fundamental relationship is preserved versus the get your 20 shots in, which is my sin. And I totally resonate with you. But also, I love it. Our whole mantra, if you will, our whole mindset for this podcast is get it right from the start. But I love how you landed on hope, right? Even if you messed up, your son's like, I'm out, because you've pushed them the wrong way, or your daughter. I love Romans 8:28, right? All things work together for good. So I think we're going to land on that. If you're listening to this right now, maybe this is the message you need to hear, is that even as you are wanting to help your child be a wisest learner in the area of their athletic journey, which is the book that we've covered, there's always a reset button. Obviously, the reset is effective if you're able to help your child get to know who Jesus is. And if they have that relationship, then really, as you make these mistakes and you also are walking with God, then he will work things for good and use it. So thank you, guys. Thank you, Kevin. Again, I'm Edric,
I'm Joy.
and we're here to help you.
Get it right from the start.